Hey all, it's Matt, your average gamer. This video is meant for both knowledge and entertainment, as we'll be seeing how fast we can take down bosses on New Game Plus 7. We'll be doing this with and without any low health procs, poison procs, or any of that stuff, with just a couple of buffs on each build. Which builds are quickest to deplete bosses' HP? Let's find out. Another note, a quick mention of the VPN I've been using lately, ExpressVPN. Keep your browsing safe with the best VPN out there. I have a discount link in the description below. Feel free to check it out after the video, as it helps both you and the channel out as well. First up here is Death's Poker taking on the Gods Can Do. How quickly can we vanish them entirely? Really quick. Death's Poker's Ash of War, Ghost Flame Ignition scales purely with your intelligence stat and is boosted by Terra Magica as well. They disappeared extremely fast here on New Game Plus 7. It does pure magic damage while also building up frost damage too. I did this on my Mage at level 200, but like always, I will have the 150 stats for you as well. They'll be timestamped in the description below. They work for most of the Mage build stuff, and I'll also explain as we go on how to do this at level 150. Death's Poker is highly damaging, and if you're a mage, definitely add this to your toolkit. Don't worry about the rest of the scaling your AR on the weapon. If you're using its Ash of War, just invest in intelligence like you would with sorceries, and you're going to get a ton of damage out of it. Let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have Death's Poker plus 10. Any staff will do because we were just casting Terra Magica. The Spellblade set will boost this. Shard of Alexander, Ritual Swords Talisman, Magic Scorpion Charm, Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, then the Magic tier, and then if you're at 150, the Faith tier as well. I'm going to show my level 200 stats before I show the 150 stats for you, but the idea here, once again, since you're going to be using sorceries, casting sorceries as well, is just to go high intelligence and take advantage of the Ash of War. Same thing at 150 with 23 Faith. You'll get to 33 with the Faith tier, and you can use Hellish Rebury and Golden Bough. Push your damage by an additional 40%. Next up is Night Comet. I know you've seen me use this before, and I've used it before a lot because it's that good. Night Comet's one of my favorites. It has a ton of range and is boosted by a total of 60% with 2 Staves of Loss. Damage is truly remarkable. We were able to crush the Draconic Tree Sentinel here in just a matter of seconds, and Beast Clergyman and Malekith wouldn't be too much more difficult. Get a chance, put Terra Magica down as well. You can easily get an extra 35% damage to make the fight go even quicker. Phase Beast Clergyman with this setup in just a matter of a few hits, with Malekith really only being a few hits as well. This is a powerful sorcery setup and something that you should use for any new game cycle to melt bosses in seconds, especially if you're having a hard time. Night Comet is very easy to use, it's chargeable, and it does a ridiculous amount of damage. And you're not going to get hit much using this build. If you're using Night Comet, because of the amount of range you have, you'll be able to stand back and then charge it when you get the chance to. Even if you don't get the chance to charge it though, it still does a good amount of damage. It can come out really quick and make use of a stupid amount of range that it has. The fact that it does so much damage, this is just going to be one of those easier builds where once you're using this and you get used to Night Comet, it's going to make the game fly by. So if you're looking for an easy, relaxed, or chill run, definitely decide to use Night Comet because it's going to make your life easier, just like the Blasphemous Blade. Let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have 2 Staves of Loss. Only the one that you're using needs to be upgraded. The Spellblade set doesn't affect this. Graven Mask Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, Magic Scorpion Charm, and then you want the Godfrey icon too. I actually apparently forgot to place it here, but that also boosts this when it's charged, and then the Magic tier too. It's absolutely chargeable. That was my bad not adding that in. I didn't realize that until I had edited this and put this together. But yeah, I didn't use the Godfrey icon in that clip. But yeah, definitely want to use that for the extra 15% when it's charged. We even ended up destroying Gideon in just a few hits here. I wanted to show this clip also because it ended up being so quick. He quite literally ends up vanishing. He doesn't really dodge this because he can't see it. And once again, by the way, everything's timestamped in the description below if you need anything specifically. Comet Azur is another extremely powerful one, and Mage was next. He might be the best boss in the entire game to use Comet Azur against. If you ever need practice, Mage is the boss for you. He pretty much just stands there and will phase transition or attempt to do so before he even gets to you. So keep the beam going and you'll demolish his health bar. If we end up overkilling Mage here in a matter of seconds for what ultimately ends up being over 40,000 damage, Comet Azur is extremely powerful and definitely something you should have as a mage because you can melt bosses in seconds. Mage is really the perfect practice target, so if you're ever having difficulty, as I mentioned, just walk in here and keep trying it to get the buffing order. I was using Golden Vow, Hellish Rebury, Terra Magica, and then lastly drinking the Infinite FP tier to keep the beam going, and we melted him in seconds. Commander Niall, by the way, can also be crushed with Comet Azur very easily. You can actually put Terra Magica down at the door before you walk in and it will still count. And then after you walk in, use the beam and you'll destroy them before the knights even get to you. And even if they get to you, they'll walk directly in front of the beam and they'll vanish in seconds. This is definitely a quick way to take care of Commander Niall, so if you're having any trouble with him and you are doing sorceries, Comet Azur is definitely the way to go. He's very easy to destroy as he just stands there and takes damage from it. Let's get into equipment. Equipment, we have Lucette's Glintstone Staff plus 10. I really like that high levels unless you're high enough to use the Prince of Death Staff, which would be better. Then, Jellyfish Shield, Azur's Glintstone Crown will boost this, Graven Mask Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, Magic Scorpion Charm. Then you can use the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman if you want some defense, or the Graven School Talisman to boost it even further, Magic tier, and the Infinite FP tier as well, so you can keep that beam going and get a lot of damage. Lead builds were next, and at first I wasn't sure what to use. I like the Scavengers a lot, but the character I had 2 upgraded Scavengers on was about to start a new journey where they'd fight easier bosses. Instead, I went for the Gargoyle Twin Blades here and chose to take on Godfrey on New Game plus 7 to see how this would go. Sure enough, we'd end up taking chunks of his HP off and phasing him rather quickly. At one point, we even did about a third of his HP in a single jump attack. With every bleed build, you're going to get damage and DPS on top of the bleed procs. DPS will build up with successive hits and successive attack talismans and the thorny tier, and this makes bleed builds some of the best in terms of disposing bosses. Only about 10 to 15% or so of bosses are immune to bleed, so these builds give you a lot of power to melt the majority of them. Godfrey was no exception as you saw the massive chunks of HP we took from him. Let's get new equipment for this build. Equipment, we have 2 Gargoyle Twin Blades with Seppuku on them. We have the White Mask and Raptor's Black Feathers, fitting for pretty much all the jump attack bleed builds. Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Claw Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, and then we have the Thorny tier and then the Faith tier to do some buffs as well. And for our stats here that I'm going to show on screen, we were Strength and Arcane, but if you're using the Scavengers, you can put them on Occult and then only have to really invest in Arcane. Bandit Curved Swords, then you're going to be Dexterity and Arcane. All bleed builds are kind of similar, the same concept, just jump, get the hits, the DPS, and the bleed procs. Next up here is the Lightning build, a staple for Faith build, super powerful for larger targets and powerful against smaller targets too when placed correctly. Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike is incredibly powerful in general and has the ability here to melt Placidusax in just a few casts and only a matter of seconds. If you're looking for a quick way to dispose of bosses as a Faith build, Lightning could be a great asset for you, particularly Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. Placidusax would end up going down rather quickly here as well, as the Lightning will hit most of him and destroy him before he even has a chance to phase transition. You can completely obliterate him with lightning, and honestly, it's probably one of the best ways to take down Placidusax as it just makes the fight so much simpler. It's really useful for him. I know a lot of people struggle with Placidusax. On New Game Plus 7, he has 38,000 HP, but it's not going to matter. Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike is basically just meant for him, meant for bosses like him in terms of just being able to completely demolish him. Let's get new equipment. Equipment, we had the Gravelstone Seal plus 25, the Jellyfish Shield for a 20% boost. Dual Seals will be 5% less, but you don't need the strength requirement. Lightning Scorpion Charm, Phlox Canvas Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, and then the Lightning tier as well. That setup, even the base setup that you have there, you're going to be able to destroy larger targets with ease. And as far as stats goes, we're heavily invested in Faith. Pump up Faith as much as you can, and you're going to get even more damage out of Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. Here's a clip from my channel on my overleveled videos, and I'm going to be doing a part 3 of that soon that's going to concentrate on the sorceries, boost, all that stuff. So it's going to be really good. We're doing, I think, 4 parts in total for that one. It's been really fun so far. Here we end up using the Golden Order Seal instead at high levels. It's going to beat out the Gravelstone Seal around 85 Faith and 85 Intelligence, and this is going to be a really quick way to absolutely obliterate Radagon and Elden Beast on New Game Plus 7. Keep in mind, Elden Beast has around 31,000 HP on New Game Plus 7, and Radagon has relatively 20,000 HP, I think somewhere in that ballpark. Next up here is Elden Beast with the 31,000 HP, as I mentioned that he has, and he's going to go down in just a matter of seconds. Now, we did extra buffs for this one, as you can tell, but it's not going to matter in the end because we're going to use one cast charged of Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike to absolutely demolish Elden Beast. And let's be real here, he completely deserves this. He's kind of annoying to fight, running around and chasing him. Not going to run away that time, Elden Beast. Completely demolished. Put this clip in here because I've been really enjoying those parts for the overleveled stuff. It's been a lot of fun doing those, but also because that was just a couple of seconds. It really was incredible. Next up here, we have Moghwyn's Sacred Spear. First, I wanted to show how quickly and how good it can be for getting rid of mobs and crowd control. Its fire damage and bleed on the ash is stupid good and can destroy regular enemies very easily. Briefly going to show this clip from the weekend, just the second part of it, where I ended up using Moghwyn's Sacred Spear to show you how fast it can get rid of the second part of Malenia. So if you're having difficulty with Phase 2 of Malenia, you can definitely destroy her with Moghwyn's Sacred Spear. She has 0 fire resistance. She's going to take a ton of damage from the bleed too, and she's going to go down very fast to the spear. Please take advantage of the windows she gives you, especially with the Scarlet Flower thing, because you end up having so much time to attack her as she just ends up sitting there. And by the way, if you're using Mimic, you can give him Moghwyn's Sacred Spear to make the fight even faster. If you're using summons, definitely give the spear to your friend Mimic. He will help you destroy her and she'll vanish in seconds. By the way, I want to mention real quick, if you're not subbed to my channel and you've been watching my videos lately or you're new to Elden Ring, I have early game content too, so definitely be sure to check that out on the channel. But hit the subscribe button, definitely be sure to check out all the videos. Been doing a ton of Elden Ring content lately. Before we show the 150 build for Moghwyn's Sacred Spear, we took on the Godskin Apostle. I think it's the T is silent there, I'm not sure. But anyways, as far as the Godskin Apostle here, he ends up absolutely getting obliterated by Moghwyn's Sacred Spear between the fire damage and the bleed, and he goes down incredibly quickly. Let's get into equipment for this powerful build. Equipment, we have Moghwyn's Sacred Spear plus 10. We have the Dragon Communion Seal because it scales with Arcane, so it's always good to use here. White Mask, Fire Scorpion Charm, Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Ritual Sword's Talisman, and then you're going to want the Fire tier as well for even more damage. Let's get into stats. This is a strength and arcane build, but if you're using the Ash of War, Blood Boon, Ritual, it's going to scale mainly from your arcane stat in terms of the fire damage and bleed you're going to get from it. So pump arcane all the way up to 60 or more, and you're going to get a ton of damage out of its Ash of War. Marais' Executioner Sword is last in this video, also capable of destroying bosses in seconds. Here's a clip of Loretta from the weekend to show the potential it has to melt bosses, literally as I mentioned, in seconds with just Golden Vow and Halastraburi, which are the 2 buffs we used for most of this video. Just a few uses of its Ash of War, we were able to take down Loretta, and her entire health bar literally gets depleted from it. I mean, it does so much damage with casting this, and it is chargeable. The damage on it truly is incredible. It really does scale well too, so if you're on the later New Game Plus cycles like I was on New Game Plus 7 here, you're still going to be able to get a ton of damage on bosses with this, and it's not highly resisted either because it's a lot of physical damage with just a little bit of magic damage. And you're going to see a side boss here get destroyed quickly before we go over equipment stats, everything you need to know. It is chargeable, as I mentioned. This excessive attack damage, the build up, the physical damage you're getting, you really can't go wrong with Marais' Executioner Sword. Definitely one you're going to want to pick up if you haven't yet, and was really fun to do in this video. Let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have Marais' Executioner Sword plus 10. Any seal will do. We had the Raptor's Black Feathers on, but you don't really need it for this build. Godfrey Icon, Rottenweak Sword Insignia, Shard of Alexander, Ritual Swords Talisman, and then the Thorny tier will boost this. The Magic tier will boost this a little bit, but I chose to use the Faith tier to get some buffs. Let's get into stats. This is a strength and arcane build, but it leans slightly more towards strength. So if you're going to pump anything after, it has a cap around 50 and 50, but if you put in any points after that, you're going to lean more towards strength rather than arcane. The arcane seems to cap around 50, at least for me. Really powerful build. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, as these are my top 7 boss melting builds that don't require low health procs for the most part, farmable consumables like Blood Boil or Poison procs. So grab Golden Vow and Howl or Flame Grant Me Strength and crush bosses in seconds. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday week, and for those in other countries, I hope it's an amazing week for you as well. Down on the Discord, definitely be sure to join that. There's over 500 people in there now. It's an awesome growing community, and if you're not subbed and you love overpowered PvE builds, be sure to check out all the awesome builds there on my channel. Thanks for watching. As always, I will catch you guys there.